What's up, lovebirds? All done celebrating Valentine's Day? Me neither. Yesterday, I was talking to the old anti-boys, and an interesting topic came up of what are your top 5 Netrunner moments? And I'm quite scatterbrained, so 5 is too small of a number for this little boy. So I decided, let's give myself some more room. Instead of writing it down, write it down and then talk it out, and then hit record and then talk it out again, and then share it with all of you wonderful birds that have been part of the whole experience. And so today I will be giving my tier list 10 to 1 of my top 10 favorite ANR moments ever of all time. Extraordinaire, extravaganza, subtype, love letter. Let's kick it off, shall we? Beautiful. Number 10, Tub Runner. What a beautiful execution of a terrible, should not work idea. I'm pretty positive that it was Wes, Noah, and I getting ready for our second Worlds trip. And of course, we had had our first wonderful experience at Worlds in 2014. So this would have been 2015 Worlds. And we were like, you know what? The hot tub is great at the Radisson. It's one of the pinnacle experiences of going to Roosevelt and for Netrunner Worlds. What could make it even better? Duh, playing Netrunner in the tub. Well, we knew the functional requirements of using shitty cardboard and or plastic tokens, cards, all of that jibber jabber was not feasible. And so we had the collective idea of laminating a full set of tokens and cards, specifically the World's Championship decks from 2013, I believe. I was making these in Andy. And that was how we were going to proceed. And Wes did 99.9999999% of the hard work of laminating all of those fine pieces, acquiring the floating mat for the hot tub, aka our table. And I had the wonderful idea of getting a box of wine to accompany us on the side of the tub. We got to Roseville, and we were so hyped to do this. I think we got to the Radisson, checked in, threw our stuff in the room, made the Walmart trip, except I don't think it was Walmart. I think we ended up we walked to just the liquor store, which it was freezing at night, so that wasn't good. Came back, and then immediately got in the hot tub with stuff, and it was just the fucking funniest thing. I believe one of the first people to hang out with us playing Tub Runner was Sam RS, if I remember correctly. I hope I'm remembering that correctly. And/or I think Brandon was there as well. And that was truly sick because it really felt like that was the first thing that we had really uniquely brought to like the Worlds experience. I think we were so disoriented our first Worlds. Or I know I certainly was. And yeah, that experience was just perfect execution of an absolutely wacky thing that shouldn't have happened. And what a way to start it off. There are someone, I don't even know who this was, but it honestly doesn't matter. And if you are the deed doer, please let us know. Someone made an alt-art of Executive Retreat, but with us playing Tub Runner. And that is just chef's kiss. Amazing. Overall, hell yeah, brother. Super, super good. Number 10, Tub Runner. Number 9, a very recent entry on the list in the grand scheme of things. Oh, excuse you. Wisconsin Regionals 2019. So I believe this effort must have been started off in some way of, I think it was Cranked and or Spags in Twitch chat saying, come to Wisconsin Regionals, Whiteblade is, and Zach Carvis is, you won't. And then I said, yeah, I will. And then I did. That was one of the first Netrunner trips, I think maybe even possibly the first, where I actually went at it alone. Normally I travel with some group from San Francisco, but this was just me going to hang out with the boys, and goddamn, it was such a good decision. Flew over. Spags was a wonderful, receptive host that picked me up at the airport and entertained me with his humble abode. We proceeded to go to this place known for their sandwiches, got some delicious sandwiches and drinks, and talked shop and watched Chuck E. Cheese employee training videos because they had that on the TV for some reason. I don't know who decided to show that, but that experience perfectly and concisely summed up, I think, how Spags and I operate on a day-to-day basis. Is just that. And it was so perfect. It was just such a great little afternoon. We went back to his house, hung out some more, just talking, testing and things, and we proceeded to meet up with Aaron Andrews and world champion Joe Shupp. We went through a testing of restaurants. I believe we were going to a place that was known for their fish and chips, beer, and polka music. However, the wait was too long. We tried to go to The Boys, but it was closed. So we settled. We didn't settle. There were some great places of going to a local pizza place and a speakeasy that was very James Bond themed and talking about different wacky music and movies that we had seen recently. And that was such a wonderful preemptive experience to the actual regional itself. Getting to the regional, seeing in the flesh my spiritual brother, Cranked, some other wonderful folks like Raja and Whiteblade, and some folks I'd never met before. And that was a really cool little regional. I think there was 16 to 20 of us, somewhere in that neighborhood. Joshua was also there. Yes, that's right. I was like, I knew that there was another key piece to the CTZ world that was right there, right in front of me. And I think my specific highlight from that day was my games against Aaron Andrews, which I think was like right in round 2, so really towards the front of the day. That set of games was one of the funniest fucking things I have taken part in during a Netrunner game. We just improv'd the whole time, and it was really, really funny. And it was so funny to the point where that was one of the main motivators to start the whole sweaty series on this here YouTube channel. The other one, obviously, being Mr. Jason, which we will get to very shortly. But yeah, that whole regional experience was a fucking blast. And thank you to everyone that took part in it and making that little special shindig just so amazing. Number 9, Wisconsin Regionals 2019. Number 8. This experience was, I want to say, 10 to 14 minutes long. I was in costume for this experience, and so was the person that had brought me into that experience, Spags, a common variable here in the CTZ equation. Number 8 goes to meeting Jason Brown at Worlds 2017. Now, to set the stage, at that point, I believe we had been running the stream for probably a year or close to a year and a half, something like that. And in the stream, we do the weird, the wacky, the etc. but during the early parts of the stream is when I was first introduced to CD location. And I remember seeing those videos and just being like, what the fuck are we supposed to do? How does someone make something this fucking cool and unique and honestly unattainable? That energy that type and caliber of energy I've seen a few times in Netrunner, and most of them are in here, which is why it's the true elite of my experiences. And finding out that Jason was actually at Worlds 2017 was super sick. And even better, I saw him talking with Spags. And Spags was also in costume at that time, I believe, being Mr. David Lynch in FBI mode. And those two were talking, and Spags had like waved me over and introduced me, and we talked for a short time there, and it was, God, that was so fucking sick. It was just the three of us. It was a really short discussion, but really getting to meet my hero in the flesh it's surreal. And I would do anything to sit for a true in-person interview with Jason. Jason, I hope you're watching this, and if so, whenever I am in England, that is going to happen. And yeah, that was honestly just a surreal experience. You had to be there. I loved it so much. I love Jason so much. And, seeing his Worlds 2017 summary, #redacted, and even the conversation about him in STEMHack Slack during and right after, it was just so evident that was special. And Jason is so incredible, and I really, really, really treasure that moment a lot. And so, yeah, I don't know. That one's a little bit more personal, so I don't have too much to say on that. But number 8, Jason Brown. Number 7, Valencia. Number 7. We started doing the stream in 2016, if I'm remembering correctly. Before then, Brian and I would commentate recorded games from the Bay Area. And Brian had the premise of like, well, we have like pretty lively discussions and deck ideas in these commentary bits. So like, why don't we, I don't know, do you want to just stream us making decks and playing Netrunner? And I was like, sure, why the fuck not? I have an internet connection. And pretty early on in the stream days, there was one episode that I think is my favorite episode, and if not the most critically important episode to the stream. And that episode is Value Scorch. That was an episode where if you're watching this video and haven't seen the stream, I'm not quite sure how you got here. This is a very specific place. I appreciate it, and thank you. Stop now. Go click on those words next to the Jackson Howard man, and go find Value Scorch and go watch it. And then come back here. Okay, now you're good. You've now watched it. So that was an episode where it was Brian and I, and we had Johnny on as well. Johnny of new lead designer fame within the Nisei Netrunner world. And we had the most fun making that episode, because I think that was the first time we really, really were just all more or less immediately on the same page of not what can we do and what shouldn't we do, but how can we just break the mold and have people go, what? Both in the game and obviously in the stream experience. And being able to just score someone because you could and have them keep going was the energy that we aligned on real quick. And that was just so fucking funny, and that is the key phrase I can think of with the stream is not can we do this? It's more of should we do this? We'll ignore that question and just do it anyways. The best single-handed play that in that episode, which just blew my mind, was the runner had 3 cards, and they had an astrolabe installed. Now, the rules and regulations of that episode dictated you cannot scorch to kill. You scorch to value, disrupt your opponent. And so at the start of the turn, there was no way that was feasible. The runner had 3 cards, except creating that beautiful new server triggered the old lab, getting them up to 4, breaking the chains and allowing us to pierce the forehead, third eye of everyone, both the player and viewers and our own, of executing the value scorch right then and there. That was so goddamn funny. Jesus. What a disaster. But I value that episode so much because I think it just gave us the confidence to just lean into that energy because it worked. And we had so much to uncover with that. And I'm really glad that I was able to share that with Brian and Johnny and everyone else that was watching and would continue to watch the stream either because of that episode or they were already in it or they were just willing to give us some faith. And so, yeah, value scorch, number 7. What a beautiful meme. Number 6, this was truly a wacky day, a wacky time, and I don't think I could have executed this with any other person than I did, and I'm so glad that we led this effort together. Gen Con 2018, it was the Sunday. Your boy was very, very hungover and struggling. And I had to meet someone to carry out a job, and that person was Spags, and the job, commentating the top cut of Gen Con 2018. We went to Starbucks, got our various iced or hot coffee goods that were very, very required that day, arrived at the convention center, saw the beautiful, magnificent beast, Ben, a.k.a. Dodge Pong, a.k.a. OBS by request, setting up the stream and making sure everything was going to happen there. And we started to look over the pairings for the day. And what we saw was not particularly exciting to either of us. We just saw a field of CI, Val, a kiss of MT, and one weird runner. And I think that was Quetzal, if I'm remembering correctly. I might be wrong there, but I think that's what it was. And looking at that from the commentating lens, both Spags and I are, at least at events like that for sure, competitive players and will probably play the more statistically powerful and significant decks than not. So we certainly have an appreciation for competitive Netrunner. But seeing that and thinking, Jesus fucking Christ, we got to commentate this for 6 to 10 games. Ooh, that was really daunting right then and there. But it didn't matter because I knew, at least from just the interactions I had, either whether it was in person or over Slack or in the stream chat or even in YouTube comments or Netrunner deck lists and Netrunner DB deck list write-ups. I had faith that I was going to be able to nail this with Spags. I've had 2 people ever that I've been like 100% zero effort needed, able to go into commentary with, and that's Brian and Spags. And we crafted what I see as one of the most elegant shit posts for 3 to 5 hours about the Netrunner that was happening in front of us. A wonderful game that you can watch from that day that I think beautifully epitomizes the whole experience of what that day was is Dean playing Val against CI. I don't remember who was playing on the other side. My apologies, but I will link the game in the old description below, so you can check that out. It's a short one. Dean pulls off some cool moves. That explains the whole thing. Everything that you need to know about what that day was, why it was so fucking funny, and why it was honestly only possible with Spags beside me. And it was such a treat to be able to really spend some time and do what I think we had seen each other do, either in spirit or literally, but separately. And so I value that experience so much. Thank you so much, buddy. Don't worry, you're in here again, so we'll get to you. We'll give you some more coverage. But number 6, commentary with Spags, Gen Con 2018. Number 5. This was another one of the smaller Netrunner trips that was going to be more localized than not, but was such a fucking killer event. And this was all possible because of yet another stream viewer, contributor, great friend, amazing person, Gustavo. Number 5 goes to the King of California tournament in San Diego during 2018. So, in true California fashion, there are 2 big metas of the Bay Area and I would say NorCal, SoCal are the 2. SoCal being more specifically LA and San Diego combined. And honestly, I am totally for the combination of those 2. It really everyone should just fucking hate this place. This place is garbage. No, I'm kidding. I like living here, but it's just so fun to hate on. So I don't blame them. But we wanted to have a true tournament to see which meta was truly the superior one. Get it down to brass tacks. I think we were fairly inspired by the East Coast, West Coast. Oh God, we got wrecked in that tournament. Charity tournament that had happened a couple of the times, and so we wanted to do the same thing inside of California. And the point of that team tournament was to have 4 folks from each meta or locale of California. Everyone brings 2 decks, 2 people go in, 1 leaves from 1 game, and you choose who's playing who in the resulting games after. And so we were going against, it was Chris McLennan, Timmy Wong, Jerry Salinas, and then, oh God, I don't know who the 4th player was. I think the 4th player was someone I had met for the first time during that event. But we knew that they had some chops. They knew what they were doing. Just seeing that lineup alone, I was like, wow, that's a powerhouse team. And so from our side of it, you get to have little team discussions before of who you're going to send in. And I was like, fuck it, just send me in. I have the most polarizing decks, and I'm the wacky kid, so they should probably, we can at least, I'll probably fuck this up, so at least we can get some info on what's going on there. And then we just kind of, shoot that out and keep it going. Except that was not what happened. What proceeded to happen was me just obliterating them all in a row, not losing, and just going, yeah, that just happened. Which was, I think that was the best I've ever played this fucking game, ever. To say the least. But, so we did that, and after I just, trounced him, had to do it to him, we decided to have a cube draft, hypercube, which was super cool. I remember Ran had come down later in the day, and I was so excited to see her, and we had such a good group going on there. I want to say that there were maybe like kind of similar number to the Wisconsin regional, like 16 to 20 nerds, all in the same place, same time, and that was really, really fun, and just another great little trip that wasn't one of these big, massive like Gen Con or Worlds or U.S. National or blah 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 blah, and it really just speaks to the power and like what the typical experience on a lot of these Netrunner trips is it doesn't really fucking matter what we're actually playing. It's just the people are really the only thing that matters. And it honestly, like, we could be doing anything. We could be playing rock, paper, scissors. Like, who fucking cares? We could be eating at the India Palace. We could be shopping at Walmart. We could be trying to find an HDMI cable. It doesn't really matter. It just speaks to the whole thing of these small, weird Netrunner events are what I think truly make the really, really memorable experiences. And for this one, I want to particularly shout out Gustavo. I love you so much, man, and thank you for making this one possible. Number 5, King of California, San Diego. Number 4. Oh, this was a long effort, and this one was actually a really significant effort. But it was completely worth it and was easily the highlight of 2018 Worlds. But I'm cheating a little bit because we had to start a lot beforehand. But number 4 goes to the Roseville cycle and the Hypercube drafts at Worlds 2018. So this was probably mid-season 2, if I remember correctly, of the stream. And, Brian and I had just spent so much time making weird decks, and, that will never go away, and it's amazing. But we thought, hey, why not make some cards? Let's get the stream involved. Let's get some ideas out here. Let's make some wacky Netrunner cards. We make wacky plays. Why not make it wacky itself? And so we started to go down that road, and we figured out that we could make these nonsensical cards of a really high power level and appropriately place them with other very high power level cards. And the perfect format for that would be Hypercube. And so what we did is, I believe we did this across 4 or 5 stream episodes of making the equivalent of a real Netrunner cycle, or an abbreviated one, going through and figuring out the card numbers and functionality, having stream viewers submit art and ideas and lore, which was super important. Oh, Michael, Neuropanther. Oh, I love Michael so much. He submitted some of the greatest lore pieces for that I was always so excited to receive. He would always send them to me on Slack, I usually the day of or the day before, and reading them was just so fucking spectacular. And when you're getting that level of feedback and participation from something like that in the stream, that just like instantly confirmed, like, yeah, this is completely worth it. And that part was already such a cool experience of like making the cycle on stream and taking input from everyone and making it this really collaborative experience. But actually sitting down with everyone that just took part in it and playing crazy Netrunner games and making these wild decks and seeing people that we either knew from the stream and directly took part in the creation of the cycle, or people that had heard about it and started to take place after, or someone that like wasn't involved at all, just like sitting down and playing the set. I remember there are three key people I can think of right off the bat. Obviously Michael, and we talked about Greg Tung, him asking if he could take part in the Hypercube draft and just seeing his level of excitement made me so fucking excited. Greg Tung is such an incredible person, and having him be part of that was just so fucking cool. Beckett played, Dan Durangis played. All these wonderful people were just so excited about it, and that made it so fucking cool. Oh, I didn't think I was going to do that this early into it. I am such a disaster. Getting back on it, yeah, that was just, fuck, that was so cool. Just, I guess, being able to create and see that experience, that absolutely made Worlds 2018 what it was. I didn't give a fuck about the Swiss. The cut is always, of course, cool to see, Netrunner's greatest and latest and greatest playing it out. But being able to do the Hypercube drafts on the side was just so fucking sick. And thank you for taking part, whether that was in the cycle creation or just hanging out during the drafts itself, or spreading the word. Thank you so much. All of you are so pivotal to that experience, and I cannot thank you enough. And fuck, goddamn, that was so cool. Number 4, the Roseville cycle and the Hypercube drafts. Number 3, this one I can't really break it down overall, because so much happened during this event, of course. So I'll try and focus where I can. But number 3 just has to go to Gen Con 2016 as a whole. That was the first. It was the first tournament, the big tournament where I actually had a focus on trying to do well. I had just spent a bunch of time with arguably the most important group in my life, of Johnny, Wes, Noah, Jay, and Phil. We had all just spent a bunch of time getting ready for Gen Con 2016, and we all wanted to do well and wanted each other to do really well. And we did. We had thrown a lot of time into it and what we were playing. And of course, those nerds were on that whole Rude Girl fucking Au Revoir deck. I couldn't stand that shit because I just don't like playing like that. And that's too much. That's too much for me. So I played Val, self-titled TTZ Bop It, which was keyhole 'em, siphon 'em, blackmail 'em.com. That was the whole thing. I ended up being the bubble boy for that tournament, which I had called out and always call out. I did the same thing at 2014 regionals. And I met a lot of people really met and interacted with a lot of people for the first time during that tournament. I had, of course, been to other worlds, and I think we had gone to Gen Con 2015, if I'm remembering correctly. So that was even my first Gen Con, and but the key thing there was I felt like I was really interacting with a lot of other more like international folks during that time, and I'm so glad that I did, and that everyone was available and like ready to hang and talk and do and blah and blah and blah. And that's the really important piece of going to a big tournament like that with a group is you have all of the existing experiences and things that you want to do with the group on the trip, but also seeing how that interacts and stretches out past that with all of these people that you're going to see for definitely the duration of that event, but after that everything else becomes less certain, blah 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 blah. And there's one story in there that I think really speaks to that of your local group versus your larger community versus how does that all incorporate with each other ongoing. And that story is, and I'm sure I've told this on stream probably several times, and or if you've seen me in person, I've probably brought it up, but I don't fucking care. I love this story so much. Of Gen Con 2016 was really the first time I met Spags. And on that day, I was to pair with the Val. I was playing CTM. I mean, who the fuck wasn't? I'm looking at you Polana IG players and or ETF. Simon was playing, or not Simon. That's not Kenny. Simon Moon was playing ETF. I think maybe that tournament. So just a couple of weirdos trying to get some econ advantages. But I knew who Spags was definitely tangentially from I think he had either just started or was just about to start watching the stream. And like obviously I knew him from KOS and just being who he is. And so, but I had never formally met him. And I think it was it was really early on in day one of we just started talking in between games real quick. He had opened the conversation with, "Oh, Newshounds, that's a smart choice with all these employee strike nerds." And I was like, "Yeah, I can sometimes read a card, just barely enough." And we had just really quick little catch-ups in between rounds, which was super cool because I just knew that Spags was this like netrunner celebrity and presence and just really honestly cool person. And we got to the last round of, I think it was either the last round or the second to last round of Swiss. And so, we do what we do. We go up to the large one to three pillars, in which has 5 to God knows how many sheets of paper taped and or stapled to each other to display the round pairings. And so I look at my seat and I'm paired against Scott Paranga, Roni, and Cheese. And I'm like, all right, don't know who this motherfucker is, so whatever. I'll go sit down. And we had been interacting in between rounds, and Spags is sitting and leaning on the seat where my opponent is supposed to be. not sitting in. That's an important delegation here, but just, hanging out. And so we were just catching up further about the day, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm going into this round, like I have to at least split if I win both. Like I'm doing extremely well if I split. Like I'm in and doing safe if I lose both, and like whatever, blah 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 blah. And so it's getting close to the 5-minute mark of like your opponent's not here. Like raise your hand and you've won the round or whatever, or won the first game, and let's see how far it goes. And so like I'm looking around, and I believe Spags was like, oh, like, where's your opponent at? I think he had caught on at this point that I hadn't, like, either I hadn't put it together or he was just leaning into it of the like, wow, we should be, your opponent should really show up right now. And I just was completely oblivious to it. I had no idea what his real name was. I just knew him as Spags. And so finally, he's like, all right. He just like pulls the chair and like starts to get into it. And my mind was fucking blown that he was the same person. And I just was like, what the fuck? And that was so funny. We played, if I remember, I know we split the round. And I think we authentically split it if we played the games, and that's what actually happened. No IV-ness or whatever. And that was really fucking cool. Just to get out and, chatting with him all throughout the day, and then actually getting to play some Netrunner and keep it going throughout the event. And that was the origin of that brotherhood, and it's so special to me. That whole event, I met and/or reinforced, relationships of that caliber throughout that event for the first time. And that was so critical in just forming my Netrunner family. And that event was so cool, so eye-opening, and just setting the tone of the next step in my Netrunner journey. And yeah, I love that event so much. It is so, so important to me. Gen Con 2016. There you go. Oof, now we got 2 left. We're getting into the serious stuff. If you're coming here looking for a meme, there's definitely not any for the duration of this video. So you may want to exit left or just buckle the seatbelt and enjoy the ride, because I'm loving it so far. Number 2. This one's cheating a little bit because it technically references 2 events, but really I'm just speaking about the person at the end of the day. But the 2 events here culminate everything that is the experience between the 2 of us. This person is so foundational to who I am in the Netrunner world, how I approach deck building, playing, community presence, and obviously this is going to be very cliche, but life as just a mentor, and what people need to be doing. John De La Salad, John De La Sandri, however you know him and interact with him, call him. Meeting John D in 2014, our set of games in the 2016 San Francisco Regionals. First, to talk about John as a person. I don't know how he exists. You think about the Powder Puff Girls as you do, and there's that whole intro sequence where they got the sugar, spice, nice, chemical X, whatever the formula is there. There's no formula for John. And like even he doesn't know, and I hope he's watching this and just laughed right now at that thing because I can just also hear his laugh and then immediate quick verbose follow up. I'm like, wait, and you know, that is a dude that is just too fucking cool for school, but he still goes to school because he's responsible. I met John D for the first time when he came up for the 2014 regionals in San Francisco. And I had pretty much more or less just moved to California, California way, after going to school in New York. And I had met people and was starting to feel more comfortable and craft the whatever this CTZ thing is, at that juncture. But I remember John fucking kickstarted that in a huge way. He was the gasoline to the fire. He had come up from LA along with some others, and we got to the top four. It was me, John, Noah, and fuck, man, I keep fucking up on the fourth person in all of these series. I can't remember who was fourth. Fuck, can't remember. I think I remember, but no, I don't. Anyways, this is the important part of what the introduction was. I met John D right before we played. John D in the cut proceeded to cracken me as Kate. And in the same game, he then crackened me again. And I knew it the first one, but it really counted at the second one. I'm not going to give you that much credit. I'm just kidding. That was the coolest Netrunner guitar trick I had ever fucking seen. Ever. And I knew at that moment, like, fuck, I will never be in the same realm as this person. I will never beat this person. This is truly a maniac, and fuck, that is so cool. And I think at that time, I think he had the D20 ring too, and I was like, man, this guy is so fucking stylish. Just knows what he's doing. Very laid back gentleman, scholar, all that business. And that was great because I just knew that was a friendship that I knew I just had to have and maintain and still do. And that super shifted my deck building. I remember right away. There have been 3 people historically that have really shifted how I make decks. John D was the first, Timmy Wong is the second, and William Brown is the third. But that was such a fucking crazy experience. And that was just him blowing me out. Blowing me away, blowing me out. Wonderful friendship and events continued to happen, et cetera, et cetera. But then we got to 2016 San Francisco Regionals. John and I played twice in the cut. And the first time we played, we were towards the back of Udo. And that game, like, there was maybe like 1 or 2 other people watching that game. There weren't that many. And I was playing Val, and he was playing this crazy, oh my God, I'll link to it below. It was a crazy Scorpios deck that had assets and was just one of the most John D things he's ever done. And I remember we played that game, and it was so tight, and it's one of those games where you and whoever you're playing with are so aware of how insanely good it is that you just start collaborating on the game itself and really talking about the experience and Like, yeah, I don't know, you're probably doing this, and blah, 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 blah. And like when you're memeing on it right then and there, that's when you just know like it's truly special. And I knew that John and I knew that because we're just on that same wavelength now. I had to earn that and get there. And that was the first time where I was like, fuck yeah, like, damn, this is insane. We both knew it. But he still proceeds to beat me per usual because John has more IQ points and style points and just all the points, frankly, more than me. And so later on in the cut, we get to I think that would have been the losers final because whoever won that went to go play Timmy, if I'm remembering that correctly. And now everyone was watching. There were a lot of people there. And the game was, someone had set up the stream on, we had like a webcam stand, and then someone put their phone, and then they were streaming it on Periscope. God, that was wild. Like, it was such a ghetto. So even people from the larger community were getting to see that game. And so there was a lot going on. That is, I think that one, I'm pretty positive that is the best game of Netrunner I've ever played. In terms of experience and, we talked about it after. Actually, I'll get to that in a second. That game was just so incredible, and I think everyone watching it knew it. And just another consistent person ran. I remember she was to the right of us, and she was watching, and the game was a nail biter. It was real fucking close, and I think she even was like, "I can't watch this. Like, this is such an intense experience. Like, that was sign number one, but." I remember multiple times in that game I had to pause because it was just, I was so hyper aggressively aware of how special of a game that was, and the only person I really cared about in that room and really knew that we were there together and it didn't really matter what was going on outside was John. And that game was just so insane. And we talked about it after for a little bit of just confirming how fucking incredible that was. So we had talked just a little bit after about it. Just really confirming the do you what the fuck just happened? Just really taking a little bit of time to confirm the insanity to ourselves of that was the best game I've ever played. Anytime that I get to play against John or just be in his existence or just see it is incredible. He's an incredible human being. There's no good way to summarize it, but John, man, you are the fucking man. Number one, oh, this is going to be hard. Number one, this is just a snapshot of the bigger picture with Noah. But there's it just it encapsulates everything that is our relationship. Preparing for Worlds 2015 and just watching Noah destroy that Worlds. That was... Noah and I were best friends already at that point. I mean, you know, my weekly routine was do work, drive up to San Francisco, play Netrunner with Noah before everyone else, just us two, because my day was really early. And his was too, because he was in school, which there was no shortage of jokes around. And, you know, we always got that one-on-one time before, but, you know, something I think about was that, you know, whether it was Netrunner or school or work or relationships or music or absolutely nothing that's relevant, him and I were just on the same page. You know, earlier in the video I talked about it, and like this is still very true and extremely significant of, you know, when I've worked on Netrunner content, you know, the two people I, you know, have been able to do it without any explicit planning or certain tricks or things like that have always been Brian and Spags. But with Noah, that was in every facet of life where we wouldn't have to say anything at all, or as soon as we said it, it was, you know, explicitly known as we're just right there. And I prepping for 2015 Worlds was a really good experience of that whole, just good wholesome fun. Really getting to what it was at its core of just saying what if and just enabling each other and allowing each other to just surrender to whatever we were trying to do. And there was a particular moment, oddly enough, John was there at the tail end of it, so go to the Radisson with me. Going through the glass doors, turn left, walk past the conference rooms and the Starbucks on your right and left, get into the actual part where the rooms start to go. And you have three options effectively. You can go in the elevator and right to that hallway of like 2 rooms or whatever. You can go straight down the long hallway of rooms, or you could go left to the little side exit there that goes out to the parking lot. A key piece of going left is that there were like 3 or 4 little seats there and a little table. And Noah and I were working on the replicating perfection deck, because we were both positive that that was the right move. That was the right thing. And I think that, with a lot of people that we talked with before then and after then would, I think disagree with that. And I don't disagree with them. But just, we sat there for, I think, which was not out of normal, for probably 3 to 4 hours. Just doing it. Just getting fucking reps in and figuring it out and solving it is the meme catchphrase that we use around and the core SF group. But doing that and just having faith and going into it. And I remember John had come up and hung out at the end of it, the testing there. And we felt really good. We felt really in sync, and we were just like, we got this. And I was doing really poorly in the tournament, and so I was kind of out of it really early, and that didn't matter because I got to watch Noah just soar. And that's exactly what he did. It was surreal. I knew at that moment that he had just figured it out. And I got to be a part of that. And oh man. Fuck. That was so pivotal in my life. Because he did it. He I think he had really figured out what he wanted to do and executed on that. And that was so amazing for him. And I was so fucking proud, and he was proud. And I've seen that caliber of excitement for someone else one other time in Netrunner, and that was the anti-guy surrounding Joe Shupp when he won. And I'm sure everyone has had their moment of that, of their friend or metamate or someone that they're just rooting for from afar absolutely kill it. And I think a lot of this context here obviously is Netrunner, but just in general. But when you experience that, that, and I think everyone has theirs, and that was mine. It was just the best thing ever. And I'm so glad I got to be a part of that. And that will continue forever. That's my number one right there. And I love you so much, man. Well, that was a doozy. But yeah, that is my top 10 moments of Netrunner. And you know what's just so crazy about the whole experience overall, the whole thing, is, you know, everything that needed to happen in order for me to meet the people that I have and have those experiences and continue to have those is nothing short of a miracle. You know, I look at it, and I'd never played card games before Netrunner. My fraternity brother had gotten one core set and taught me on Octagon at the start, which is not a good beginner's experience, in addition to the premise of like, yeah, go play these fucking nerdy card games. Then it wasn't exactly the top selling point one could have come up with. But, you know, I needed to do that, and I needed to go to the regionals in Albany, and then I needed to keep playing, and then I needed to meet Damon in the Plugged In tour in New York, and then I needed to go to Chicago, and then I need and meet people like Dane and William Brown, and I had to, you know, get to California and go to Gamescape and stay and meet all these people, and it all had to keep going, and that is a miracle. Just is. I can't be convinced of anything else. And so I'm so fortunate and blessed that that has been a part of my life and continues to be a part of my life, and I frankly don't see an end to it. You know, Netrunner will end at some point. I guess technically it might not, but it will end at some point. But the thing that won't is, and I think in the famous words of Eric Caoli's Toronto, I think it's Toronto Worlds write-up. It's about the friends we met along the way, and 100%. That's the only thing that's important. And so thank you for taking the time to just hang out and listen to this idiot for, I don't know how long this is actually going to be, but it's probably 40 minutes to an hour. Thank you for joining on the stream or in the conversations on Slack or at the events in your local metas or larger, you know, more national, bigger events. They're still happening. There are so many more coming up. 2019 was a really great year, in particular to, you know, really branch out and go to some of these events, and I'm going to continue to do that this year. And I'm really fucking excited. I love you all so much, and that's my letter to you.